Today's Patreon dedication is for Jason Belk. Thank you, Jason. The Necrobloom versus Kozilek the Great Distortion, area of the Charmed Apple, and a Nycthea. Well, we've got lands, Mesmeric Orb to load up our graveyard, so let's try this one. I mean, we're not doing much else is the problem, but whatever. Life from the Loam being cast by the other Abzan player. Majoring Network, having a counter stored on it. They went for a Scryland previously. Alright, and a Yavimaya for us. We drew into the new 6 on the previous turn, so let's just drop Command Tower to fix our colours. And we'll play the Mesmeric Orb, start to get the mill going. Alright, and went for the self-mill, so seeing some lands get pulled back from Life from the Loam. Got a really good dredge there, apparently. Weaver of Harmony and Worldly Tutor have been dredged. Obviously 2 of the mill was from the Mesmeric Orb, so lucky that they got into some lands there. Putting 3 lands into their hand, and they've got 9 cards in hand at the moment, so gonna have to discard anyway, which might be part of the plan. Discarding the Windswept Heath and a Growing Ranks, Lurrus of the Dream Den, milling a Planar Bridge and a High Market. And then we see Urza's Workshop does not have Metalcraft at the moment, and doesn't have any other Urza's lands anyway. A Mindstone will take him 1/3 of the way, and then another storage counter onto the network. And we mill from the Orb a Swamp and a Farewell. Okay, Nature's Law, so we can go for a black mana, and that way we'll have double black available to go for the Bloodghast here. And this time milling a Serra's Sanctum is good to get rid of, although they've got access to the Life from the Loam anyway. Arcane Signet, a Canopy Vista, it looks like they've dredged as well, so Cemetery Tampering, Femoreth Enchantress, and a Tameo Safekeeping. Life from the Loam grabs a Jewel, a Fetch, and the Serra's Sanctum, so we're very much helping the Nycthea player here. Chosen by Heliod, a land, and a Trespasser's Curse milled. Serra's Sanctum here as well, will not tap for any mana. And then chosen by Heliod, being played out of the bin by Lurrus, so draw a card with that. Looks like our Mesmeric Orb is really helping our opponents, which isn't typically the case. And an Angelic Gift going on there as well, so another cantrip, and gives the Lurrus flying. So now a 3/4 flyer with lifelink, turns into the right. Conduit of Ruin, Reliquary Tower, Urza's Mine, and Matter Reshaper. Another counter being put on the Majoring Network. The land is Seagate Wreckage this time, and a Manifold Key to untap the big artifacts. Alright, milled this time. Disciple of Freya-Lys and Fell the Profane, Rise of the Witch King, and Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Let me see a Barren Moor there as well, so maybe just cycle that. Go for our commander. And we'll play ourselves a Verdant Catacombs. So we're going to make our first plant token. And I think we will go for the sacrifice on the Barren Moor. Not particularly bothered about any dredge at the moment. Getting enough mill with the Mesmeric Orb as it is. I think I might have forgotten to put Scrubland in the deck, weirdly. So I'll have to sort that out later. Probably won't remember though. So shock down a Godless Shrine then. So let's cycle the Barren Moor. And yeah, could dredge back the Verdant Catacombs, but we'll go for a draw here. Ancient Green Warden's very nice, might play that next turn. Although we want to play this and then play a land straight into it, so maybe 6 is the way to go. Bloodghast can't block, so we'll swing it into the right, show our opponents that we're looking at the Eldrazi player as well. Basically just trying to keep people away from us. Don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to keep track of the graveyards here, because they keep closing for some infuriating reason. Sigil of the Empty Throne is in the bin, Anointed Procession, some basics, a Wild Growth, and Life from the Loam got dredged again, so a couple of lands and a Sundering Growth this time. And deciding on the Nycthea, so not going for the Life from the Loam this time. So see what they want to exile from the graveyard here. They are aiming for the Cemetery Tampering. And they've got 15 cards in the library, so that makes sense. Going to be able to cast the Hideaway card for free. Generous Gift, a Hall of Heliod's Generosity. Hateful Eidolon, I've yet to see do anything in Commander, although it's good in the faster formats. Hallowed Haunting, and Celestial Mantle. Plays a tap land in order to scry 1. Still doesn't have a swamp for this tainted field. Playing Ariette of the Charmed Apple. And an All That Glitters loading up the Voltron Lurus over here. So All That Glitters +1/+1 for each artifact and enchantment, making this a 6/7. And it flies in towards us. And Ariette triggers at the end of the turn, so each opponent loses X life. And X is 3 at the moment, so we go down to 28. There's a Power Plank getting rid of Tron from our opponent. Matter Reshaper we already saw, Lightning Greaves, and an Everflowing Chalice. Homeward Path into play for the Kozilek player. Removing charge counters from this, I think he made 3 mana with that. And gets into a Darksteel Monolith, so must have a Titan in hand. Can't cheat down your commander with this. Yep, and Ulamog the Infinite Gaia, so destroys a target permanent, goes after the Lurus correctly. Takes all the auras down with it, switching off the Serra's Sanctum again. Alright, so should be able to survive Annihilator 4 from the Ulamog next turn if it goes in towards us. We're milling some stuff here. There's an Aftermath Analyst, which would be good with the 6. Not going to be able to afford to activate that, unfortunately. But we could play it this turn. So if we go for a Dredge onto a Verdant Catacombs here, then we can discard Yavimaya to 6 in order to go for the, what is it called, Aftermath Analyst. I think that's fine. That means that we can still make a land this turn as well. So we'll play the 6 and go for casting the Aftermath Analyst like we said. Discard Yavimaya to do that. And yeah, ideally we play this for like 6 mana so that we could play and crack it straight away, but not doing incredibly well on mana. Enters and mills. And there we see the Eerie Interlude, which we'd like to be able to fetch back out, so if we see something like Eternal Witness, that would be good. But like I said, we need the mana to actually cast it. There's Gitrog in the bin as well. Tevesh Sat, Doom of Fools. Anyway, make landfall a couple of times here. Not quite at the point of making zombies yet, that'll be next turn. Assuming that we keep our Necrobloom. So just sack the Verdant Catacombs now. If someone's got Graveyard Hate, then so be it. And we don't have any Surveil lands in the list, I'll just go for the Shock Land Intapt. Actually don't have too many lands in the bin at the moment, only 6 of them. We can't get through anywhere, so we'll just hold back the Bloodghast. Can use it as sack fodder to the Annihilator if needs be. Alright, so they've got 20 cards in the library now, or in the graveyard, and then about to mill 3, which means they'll get the free spell here. Heroic Intervention, lands obviously. Cathar's Crusade. They got the free spell, a Song of the World Soul, meaning they'll be able to double up the Cemetery Tampering, which will be interesting. In the bin, a Garruk's Uprising as well. Talisman, a Sanctum Weaver. So now seeing the Serra's Sanctum hit play after they fetched it out previously. And the 2 creatures swinging in past the Ulamog. Yeah, these have Menace, so can go past Ulamog. And a Nyxthea going to trigger again. So haven't cast any spells yet in order to populate. Grabbing themselves a Sigil of the Empty Throne's really good, especially when you've got 2 of them. And 7 cards in hand, going after Life from the Loam again. Targeting no lands of any particular interest, I don't think, just a means of dumping more cards into his graveyard at the discard step, but does manage to populate Sigil of the Empty Throne, as you would expect. Okay, that's curious. Not going for any more spells then. So I'm guessing he's just holding up protection. So discarding to hand size, Life from the Loam, and some lands again. This time Toxic Deluge, Visions of Brutality, some lands, and Transcendent Envoy milled. A Paralyze from the black player. Tap the enchanted creature and it doesn't untap. Not something you'd expect from black. But countering it with Not of This World. Does that for free because Ulamog's so big. Spirit Link after that goes on to the Ulamog, and this isn't lifelink, so whenever the enchanted creature deals damage you gain that much, so effectively means they can take 10 damage from Ulamog and not lose any life. And they just straight up gain life if it hits someone else. Won't get around the Annihilator though. Planar Disruption is can't attack or block, trying to put that on the Nyxthea. So being forced to use that protection magic I imagine here. Teferi's Protection, so that forces the Ulamog in elsewhere, able to populate on casting that. making another Sigil of the Empty Throne, which means 3 angels every time he casts an enchantment. It That Betrays, Urza's Tower, I think we've seen all of Tron there now. An Arcane Lighthouse, Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, Void Winnower, and Forsaken Monument is a good one to get rid of. Although if they've got a Titan in hand, they can cast it for free thanks to the Darksteel Monolith. Or they could just go for a Chromatic Orrery. So jumping ahead 5 mana for free. 2 cards in hand. Can refill with the Kozilek, of course. Untapping the Orrery with the Manifold Key, meaning it generates 9 mana. On the untap, they mill again with Geode Golem. There is a combo with cards like Forsaken Monument and Basalt Monolith, but it entails untapping infinitely and gaining a mana every time, so Mesmeric Orb will help protect against that. Kozilek the Great Distortion bumps our opponent up to 7 cards in hand and might be able to counter stuff. Spawnbend Protector. At the beginning of your end step, return an Eldrazi from graveyard to hand. Plenty of graveyard interaction here. So they're going to be able to grab their scary stuff back. Now see if the Ulamog swings in or not. Probably takes Ariette out of the game if it swings in there, but instead goes in towards us, as kind of thought it would. So Annihilator 4. Get rid of Bloodghast and 3 plant tokens. And then we chump the Ulamog with a plant token. So gaining Ariette 10 life. As we can see, Spirit Link goes on the stack, unlike Lifelink. And the Spawnbed Protector, triggering at the end step, aims for the It That Betrays, not the Void Winnower, thankfully. Alright, so see what we mill into first before we make any decisions, because setting up for an Eerie Ultimatum would be nice if we can get it back into our hand. There's a Tireless Provisioner, which we could retrace. So if we dredge a land back into hand, we could go for retracing anything. I mean, we could just get that Tireless Provisioner and then crack the Aftermath Analyst. I suppose that would be the play here. So put a forest into our hand and mill a couple more cards. And then we see Dictate of Erebos as well, which will be good with all the tokens. Stinkweed Imp as well for more dredge. So now let's get out the Tireless Provisioner. No, actually we're a mana shy, aren't we? Yeah, I keep thinking that I've got more lands than I have available to me, annoyingly. Yeah, I think it's just going to have to be Avenger of Zendikar then, unfortunately, because there's no guarantee that all this won't keep swinging in towards us. That allows us to get ahead on mana for a turn as well. And then maybe next turn we can do the whole setting up Tireless Provisioner with Aftermath Analyst and do a bunch of landfall stuff. Get our first zombie with the Necrobloom. And then see if we can get through counter magic of the Eldrazi player. Hopefully give ourselves enough chump blockers to survive a turn cycle. Looks like we are going to. No, we didn't get the zombie because it was a forest that I went for. Should have gone for Yavimaya or something like that. I don't think it really matters. Actually, forgetting about the 6 ability there, maybe we wouldn't have gotten into a land anyway. Could have swung in with 6 towards Ariette to try and get another land into hand. Then we would have been able to play a land and discard one to get the Tireless Provisioner out. But all we would have been able to do with all the mana is go for Ancient Tomb and maybe Avenger of Zendikar anyway, so need multiple lands in hand with something like Life from the Loam in order to make use of the 6. Either way we end up with a bunch of chump blockers and Annihilator fodder. Have to assume that the Annihilator is going to come in over here. Alright, Archon of Sun's Grace, just setting up all the Enchantress stuff. Haven't played an enchantment into the Sigil yet. Making another copy of the Sigil. Then Beast Within heading over towards the Kozilek, who doesn't seem to be, another copy of the Sigil by the way, doesn't seem to be holding up priority for the counter magic, which is strange. I mean, he's got 6 cards in hand, maybe he's forgetting about the counter magic ability. So down goes the commander. And then a bunch of stuff going in at the Eldrazi player. Can always count on Eldrazi to draw hate. Going to be able to reanimate something again with the Onyxia. Aiming for the Cathar's Crusade. That'll be a scary one. Especially when it's triggering itself. So Cathar's Crusade does count as a creature entering because it's come in as a zombie. So plus counters on everything. Archon of Sun's Grace is a creature entering to trigger the Cathar's Crusade again. So that's a whole heap of damage. A 6/6 commander and some 5/5s going into the right. So having to make some double blocks. getting rid of some sigils. Getting him down to 8 though. Mesmeric Orb continuing to do obnoxious stuff. Pearl Ear, Sage's Reverie, Scourge Mark, and an Anguished Unmaking. A Doomwake Giant, unfortunately going to take out our plants. I was hoping that we'd be able to buff them up and get rid of some really problematic players here, but unfortunately our opponent's thinking otherwise. Can't really think what Doomwake Giant's doing there other than helping these two, but that's why we want to play Avenger of Zendikar into a land typically. Ariat triggering again at the end of the turn. Not too many auras in play. Sol Ring for the colourless player. 6 cards in hand. And we know one of them is It That Betrays, which he can play for free. Kozilek, Butcher of Truth, being played for free. Have to see if our opponent has any haste. Does draw 4 cards. Alright, tapping down a whole heap of mana, 18. As untapped a milled Aethran Dynamo with the Manifold Key and Orrery. Now into a Mana Vault. It That Betrays. Could still have like a Chroma's Memorial or something like that. That would give flying and haste to everything. Yeah, the Annihilator is going to be much more difficult now thanks to our friend Doomwake Giant over here. Maybe that was the plan, in order to dissuade the Annihilator from coming in over there. A Breaker of Creation as well, so no haste at least. Is going to be able to gain a bunch of life though, goes back up to 23. So the game continues. And the Ulamog comes in at us as I thought it would. Not sure why our opponent's ignoring the guy that's going off with sigils over here. So it definitely has to be Avenger, Mesmeric Orb. And then we just have to make do with the fact that we've got no mana next turn. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Aftermath Analyst. And then we could dredge a land back, but not do anything with it really. Yep, just have to do that I think. Oh, of course, the It That Betrays will steal these things, so they take their own Avenger of Zendikar. Still made the right decision anyway, because we definitely need to keep Necrobloom in play for landfall and 6 to be able to interact with the graveyard. Obviously the Aftermath Analyst is going to get us some lands, although it's going to be way too slow here I think. Wow, really? And now this guy is scooping? Okay, so that is a definite ban. Probably our only means of getting out of this, and he's just decided to bounce on us. Anyway, from the lands coming in, a bunch of plant tokens enter here as well. I mean, we needed a board wipe anyway. And we'll just have to take the hit for 10 here, I think. Really screwed over by that Doomwake Giant. But with 5 cards in hand next turn, he might be able to get down a decent amount of auras. Although I doubt they're going to deal with the Titans. Continuing to gain life from the Spirit Link. And even managed to get down a Thought Vessel with our lands. Well, we've still got Mesmeric Orb in play at least. It doesn't matter whose control it's under. The Spawnbed Protector is going to grab something else back. It is an Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger this time, which we probably see next turn. Annoyingly, we saw Farewell milled right at the beginning of the game, not that we could afford it here anyway. So milling some lands. There's a Crater Hoof. I mean, I don't think we would have had the mana for it anyway, but retracing something like that would be ideal. Suppose that's all we can do to set up here. So not going to go for the dredge, although we could get more lands into play if we dredge a Stinkweed Imp. Yeah, let's just do that. Dredging Kodama's Reach and Cultivate. Too late for those. Finally, there's Life from the Loam. Again, too late for it. Mana Crypt, and we do manage to get into another land. So I think we just need to dodge things from Doomwake Giant. We'll crack the Aftermath Analyst at instant speed. Doomwake Giant being able to get rid of a bunch of plant tokens would be ideal. Never know, we might mill a Dread Return and be able to get down the Crater Hoof next turn. Ethereal Armour goes on to the Doomwake Giant, so that'll be -1/-1. Only 3 cards left though. Gonna have to be careful that none of our creatures go down here, especially the Aftermath Analyst. And then a Fear. And the enchanted creature has Fear. And it looks as though our opponent does have one more. An Archon of Sun's Grace is not an enchantment. Yeah, it doesn't look as though he has anything, unfortunately. And of course the Doomwake Giant swings in towards us, because why wouldn't it? So we'll just crack this now. We're handing it over to the Eldrazi player seemingly. But we'll see a little bit of what we can do with Necrobloom along the way at least. So they'll get a copy of the Aftermath Analyst thanks to the It That Betrays. And get 9 triggers. Don't actually have all that many lands in the bin, unbelievably. But we'll see the zombies for the first time. And I think we just take the damage here because likely that we're going to have to deal with Annihilator next turn. Suppose we could try and sacrifice a bunch of lands to the Annihilator and try and get into Burial Rites, or, I don't know, Animate Dead or something like that for the Crater Hoof. The Eldrazi player has a bunch of Titans in play and 6 cards in hand though. Aftermath Analyst being cracked now because he does have access to green mana. And thanks to the Mesmeric Orb being in play all game, which has played a vital role in pretty much everyone's gameplay here. So they do manage to assemble Tron by using our creature. And we've got a lot of mana from the Urza's Workshop as well. And the plant tokens are still alive, so Avenger of Zendikar going to make them massive, and it's likely that we all go down here. So the plants are now 20/21s, so just one of those will take us out. We are down to 4 life. So not sure where the attacks are going yet, but there's Annihilator triggers to consider. Obviously the more lands we sacrifice, the fewer Mesmeric Orb triggers we can get. Noteworthy that if It That Betrays has this sacrifice, then it's going to get rid of the Bloodghast, which is 1 fewer Annihilator pieces of fodder that we can make use of. Alright, this player just decides to scoop. So time to see how much is coming in at us. Okay, with Annihilator on the stack, it's not showing us what's attacking where, which is very annoying. So Bloodghast goes down, and we are just wanting reanimation really, so keep as many creatures in play as possible. We'll get rid of some tap lands here, Secluded Steppe, the Barren Moor, because obviously these are going to come into play under our opponent's control. Can have the Tricycle land as well. So It That Betrays, stealing all those permanents. And obviously the plants get even bigger, we can't take a hit from a single plant anyway, so doesn't really matter. Alright, so what's attacking us? Oh, actually, we'll quite comfortably survive here. So we keep our commander because we've got some fetches, and hopefully have targets for the fetches. Yeah, let's just chump block with zombies here then. Yeah, so definitely only 3 creatures swinging in at us, and each one of them is being blocked, yes. Don't want to make any mistakes here. And then keep your fingers crossed for some good mills. There's Ulamog the Ceaseless Hunger as well, forgot about that. Ugh. So goes after 6, and the Necrobloom. Put that into our command zone. Sanctum of Ugin will allow them to tutor if they want to. It's noteworthy that the more colour permanents they take from us, they can draw with Chromatic Orrery. They have revealed a Zuladoc at some point on tapping the Orrery again. And out comes Zuladoc. Ulamog the Defiler is going to exile half of our library, so that may well wrap up the reanimation that we need. Dread Return or Unburial Rites. Cascades into Hedron Archive. So yeah, we'll get round to our next turn. If we can't do anything, I'm just going to scoop because this is taking quite a while. Oh, I don't know all this dust anyway, so that's that. So I will say good game to my opponent, and we'll concede and see if we can... Actually, I'll wait for Azulamog exiled the library here. It looks like it has. Yep, it exiled an Unburial Rites. Didn't get rid of the Dread Return though, so let's see if we can draw cards here. No, it's not giving us the option, so it was basically Dread Return. We would have had to sacrifice creatures to that anyway, but probably would have gone for the commander, go for some more landfall to get tokens into play, and hopefully go wide on our opponent, but the All Is Dust Cascade did it for us there. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.